You understand, of course, you have no choice now. You can't take 4, 6 is far too many. Take 5 for Foodies. All the Foodies check in on KTAR.com every week to find out what guest we're going to have on, what food we're going to serve, what extraordinary dining that we're going to experience. Howard, it's not happening.
Instead, it's me.
We decided that we were going to have Howard Seftel on because we try to offer you a little variety, and there's nobody that can speak about more restaurants than Howard Seftel, because you've been a dining critic and a food critic for how long at the Republic?
Republic, over 13 years and over 20 years total. There are a lot of meals under the belt.
Okay, so I think that more than anything, and one of the reasons we invited you on here is to find out what it is that a food critic does, how it works. How often do you eat out during the week?
A lot. I would say I eat out more than 200 times a year. There are times where I'll go almost a month straight eating out every single night.
You understand, of course, that right now everyone is wondering why my first question wasn't about why it is that you're playing the elderly Lamont Cranston of The Shadow, and no one knows.
Right. To be a credible critic, you simply have to be anonymous. I can't have if people knew who I was, restaurant owners, and it's human nature, I would get service that the average person wouldn't get. So the idea is, I sit next to the bathrooms, I get the lousy seats, I get the waiter who's been on for 2 days and doesn't know the menu. I get treated just like everybody else.
What's the worst service you've ever gotten anywhere?
This is really interesting because I know people get particularly exercised about service. But I'm not a mellow person, but when it comes to eating out, I am very mellow. I am extremely forgiving. People go into restaurants, Pat, with chips on their shoulder, show me. I'm sure you've eaten with these sorts of people. If the server is trying, I'm happy. I'm not going to let
Never more than once, though. It drives me crazy, particularly then when they also pick on the busboy. You have an expense limit?
Oh, yeah. I have a budget. Do you have a budget, Pat?
Well, yeah, but I don't go out 200 times a year and have somebody else pay for it.
I'll tell you this, enormously to my employer's credit, my budget hasn't been axed at all. I have enough money so I can go to a restaurant enough times and eat enough of the food so that when I write up a review, I can look myself in the mirror and said, I ate a very, very good proportion of the food on this menu, and my judgment is informed not by a guesswork, but what I actually ate.
Do you ever do a review after one visit?
No.
Because if you have to go back to all of those restaurants that you review and all of the variety of different kinds of restaurants that you offer to us in the Republic, and then having to go back to, it just seems to me you must have an unlimited expense budget. You ever order Cristal champagne?
No.
I just thought of that as like $350,
but I will tell
$400
you,
a bottle.
I will have a glass of wine with dinner or a cocktail, but I don't drink my budget. But I do know wine, so I can make a judgment about the wine list without necessarily drinking everything. But certainly in a nice restaurant, I'll have a glass of wine and sometimes even a bottle just to see how the restaurant handles it. But I don't drink up my budget.
There are restaurant owners out there right now saying, you mean he was sober when he wrote that review that I read of the Republic?
And not only that, Pat, I am extremely careful about how much I drink. I don't have 2 glasses of wine.
Who chooses the restaurants?
Oh, me.
Always?
I have a wonderful job. In 20 years, I have never had anybody at the papers I worked at say, I want you to review this restaurant. If they did that, I would no longer work there.
But you get invited, I'm sure, by the restaurants innocently who say, oh, Howard Seftel, I'd love to have him try our new place.
Oh, I'm aware. I get all sorts of publicity and press releases. And in general, people alert me that they have restaurants. I have a very thick folder filled with restaurants. It's interesting that when I first got here, more than 20 years ago, and I became a reviewer, my first thought was, how am I going to find a restaurant a week to review? Now, if no new restaurants open for a year, I could do 52 off the top of my head.
What does it do to you, though, Howard? Because I think of you as a responsible citizen. What does it do to you to know that a column of yours, a review of yours, can ruin a family restaurant?
Well, the honest answer, Pat, is I don't think about it. You can't think about it. I go to a restaurant and I give it my best shot. That said, there's no, if I go to a mom and pop restaurant, and most of the restaurants I go to are not mom and pop, as the sort of principal reviewer, I go to the serious, ambitious restaurants. I do go to mom and pop places, but if a mom and pop place, if I go the first time and it's just terrible, there is absolutely no reason for me to tell 400,000 people not to go to this little restaurant, in Central Phoenix. So I'll just let it go.
One more question, and this is one I've never asked you on television or radio before. I'm never going to ask you what your favorite meal of all time is. But if you wanted to revisit one memorable meal, just to have exactly that same experience again, what would it be?
Wow. And this is going to make me look bad, but it would be the kind of meal I have experienced. Now, we're not talking about I had great guests or my wife was particularly lovely or it was an anniversary. I had a 3-star Michelin meal at Guy Savoy in Paris. We got there at 7:30. We left about 1:15. I thought I had been knighted somehow during the meal.
Listen, that doesn't make you look bad. The beard makes you look bad.
The beard makes me
But not your choice of a restaurant in Paris. Hey, Howard Seftel, you can read him all the time in the Arizona Republic. But you could only kind of see him on Take 5 for Foodies on KTAR.com.